name is Emile Mack. Right now I'm retired. I worked for the Los Angeles Fire Department for 38 years, and while I was on the fire department, I promoted up through the ranks. I reached the position of being second in command of the LAFD, which gave me a great opportunity to really become involved in our city and see both the very positive attributes of our city as well as those things that we need to work on. And so it's very interesting that we are now talking about the LA Riots again in the midst of everything that is going on nationally and locally. So it's a very good time to have this conversation. I had a few Korean friends, but I really wasn't connected to the Korean community, and that didn't come till much later. And when I was on the fire department and I was brought down to be on the fire chief's staff, I met Michelle Park Steele. And Michelle said, "Do you know about the Korean community?" And I told her, no, I didn't. I had no idea. And she's the one that actually reintroduced me into my culture, into my origins. And through that, and it was following the riots. So over the years, after being reintroduced into the Korean community, I began to understand what the Koreans went through during the riots. And I already had an understanding of what the African American community felt and how they viewed the riots. So now I have both perspectives. And as some of the past events that marked the different milestones of the years from the riots occurred, they kind of found out my background and they said, would I speak? And so I spoke at numerous events on the riots, and one in particular was clergy from the African American and the Korean communities that were brought together to again build bridges to help establish the relationships that would hopefully prevent something like this from happening again with those two communities. And they asked me how I felt, and not knowing really, what they were looking for, but I told them, I said, if I don't have a side that I'm on, because I can understand both sides. I truly understand what the African American community felt. I understand what the Korean community felt. So there is no side for me, but what there is an understanding, and also that there needs to be what's happening here at that event, as is happening right now. We're trying to connect and build the bridges between the communities so that we can hopefully not have this happen again. So that was kind of my path to ultimately being asked the question myself and how I viewed what had occurred and how I felt and how I hope what can happen. We all find this so important because I think many of us understand this can happen again. Because when we look at both the 65 riots as well as the 92 riots, the same conditions, the community, whether it's validated or not, feel that they're unequal, or that they're not respected, or that they're discriminated against, or that the economic advantages aren't in their community, the educational advantages, the things that make a community feel equal and whole. Many of those things are still not here. And so very well we could have another riot. And if you look at both riots, they were both instigated by events that triggered and symbolized what these communities felt, how they were wronged. The Rodney King beating, they felt police brutality, they felt that they're not equally treated in the justice system. Back in the '65 riots, it was the arrest of an intoxicated African American. And again, events that are very, small on scale, but symbolize what a community felt in mass: unfairness, inequality, lack of opportunity, hope, really. And then those were the trigger points. And that can happen today, especially as we see in the environment that we have nationally now. And so for us, what we're doing here today, what we're talking about doing and bringing people together, because it's going to be very hard to solve so many of the problems of economy, social issues and things like that, but building the relationships and the bridges between the communities so that they can understand each other, they can have the dialogue. If things are starting to fester and starting to develop, they can talk through these things. And it needs not only the community itself, the local religious leaders, the local community leaders, but government needs to be involved also. It needs to be efforts on everyone's part to help people communicate, to build relationships so that we don't have the misunderstandings that have led to some of our terrible past. And so through these efforts, we also need to ensure that we are doing things that make people feel that there's some sense of equality and that where there's not a sense of discrimination. And these are very difficult. And it's going to take everybody to make people feel that there is equality, there's justice, there's not discrimination, and that there's hope for their futures. And I spoke to a class, not a class, but a group of young people that had, probably about 5 years ago, wrote about the 92 riots. And I told them, like we are here, this is very important what you're doing, you're documenting, you're recording history, because the scars, the physical damage done to buildings is all perishable. It leaves and people forget. And that's why remembering not to mull over it, but remembering so that we understand what happened so we can then work to build a better future is what we really need to all collectively set our hopes and goals toward.